Dan Blocker was not the kind of man who needed to shout to be heard. His presence spoke for him. Towering in stature yet soft in spirit, he embodied a rare balance of strength and kindness that made him unforgettable both on screen and off. Long before fame found him, Dan Blocker lived by principles rooted in loyalty, humility, and respect. To millions, he would become Hoss Cartwright, the warm-hearted soul of Bonanza. But to those who truly knew him, Blocker was far more than a television icon. He was a husband devoted to his wife, a father grounded in responsibility, a soldier shaped by service, and a man who believed deeply in doing right, even when it was difficult. His life was not one of scandal or ego, but of quiet conviction. And though his time on Earth was heartbreakingly short, the values he lived by left an imprint that still resonates decades after his passing. Texas roots and the making of character born. Bobby Dan Davis. On December 10th, 1928, in DeKalb, Texas, Dan Blocker grew up in a world defined by hard work and shared responsibility. His parents ran a small community store in the rugged Texas hills, a place where neighbors depended on one another. And honesty mattered more than appearances. From an early age, Dan learned the value of labor, fairness, and compassion. Even as a boy, he stood out, not just for his size, but for his temperament. By adulthood, he would reach 6 feet 4 inches and nearly 300 pounds. Yet those who knew him described him as gentle, thoughtful, and deeply considerate. He wasn't drawn to dominance or bravado. Instead, he listened more. Spoke. The humility forged in those early years would become the foundation of his character, guiding every role he would later take on, as an actor, a leader, and a man. Discipline, education, and the call to serve Blocker's sense of responsibility deepened during his education. He attended the Texas Military Institute, where discipline and leadership were not abstract ideals but daily practice. Later, at Sul Ross State Teachers College, he earning a degree in English while also starring in football. His intellect often surprised those who judged him solely by his size. He went on to earn a master's degree in dramatic arts, revealing a thoughtful mind deeply engaged with language, performance, and storytelling. That discipline was tested and strengthened during his service in the U.S. Army. As an infantry sergeant during the Korean War, Blocker experienced the realities of leadership under pressure. The war shaped his worldview permanently, reinforcing his empathy for others and his belief that authority meant responsibility, not entitlement. Those years instilled in him a profound respect for teamwork, sacrifice, and the dignity of every individual. From classroom to camera, after returning from military service, Dan Blocker chose stability. He worked as a teacher, sharing his love of language and learning. We remember morning students who were benefited from his patience and clarity. Acting was not an immediate ambition, it was a gradual calling. And in the late 1950s, he began landing small television roles, often cast as tough characters because of his size. Yet even in those early performances, there was something different about him. He brought warmth where others relied on intimidation. In 1959, his life changed forever when he was cast as Eric Hoss Cartwright on Bonanza. The role seemed almost destined. Hoss was kind, moral, and emotionally open, a man guided by heart rather than ego. It wasn't an act. It was Dan Blocker brought to life on screen. From the moment he appeared, audiences connected with him, sensing authenticity in every gesture and word. The Heart of Bonanza became one of the most successful television series in history, and Dan Blocker appeared in 415 episodes over 14 seasons. While the show featured action, adventure, and frontier drama, it was Hoss Cartwright who gave it soul. Blocker didn't rely on toughness or bravado. His strength was emotional honesty. He portrayed it on Shabbat. Kindness without weakness and masculinity without cruelty. Way fans saw themselves in him. Children trusted him. Parents admired him. Behind the scenes were how Blocker was widely regarded as the moral compass of the cast. He was deeply respected by Lorne Greene and Michael Landon, both of whom valued his steadiness and integrity. Blocker believed Bonanza mattered, that it brought wholesome storytelling into American homes at a time when television shaped national values. To him, it wasn't shallow entertainment. It was meaningful work, and he treated it with gratitude and pride. A marriage built before fame. Long before Hollywood recognition, Dan Blocker found the love of his life. He married Dolphia Parker in 1952, years before Bonanza ever existed. Their relationship was rooted in shared values, mutual respect, and quiet devotion. Fame did not alter their bond. While Dan spent long hours on set, Dolphia anchored their home, raising their 4 children, David, Dirk, Deborah, and Dana, with stability and moral clarity. She protected the family from the distortions of celebrity, ensuring their household remained grounded. Blocker credited Dolphia with keeping him centered, reminding him who he was beyond the camera. Their marriage stood as a rare example of authenticity in Hollywood, a partnership untouched by ego or ambition. Dan never chased glamour. His priority was always home. That loyalty to both family and principle defined the man more than any role he ever played. A clash of values. Behind the scenes, despite his gentle nature, Dan Blocker was not without strong convictions. His deepest professional conflict came not from rivalry, but from principle. His Bonanza co-star, Pernell Roberts, who played Adam Cartwright, was outspokenly critical of the show's scripts and direction. Roberts, an intellectual with high artistic expectations, often disparaged the material publicly and privately. To Blocker, this was unacceptable. He believed in professionalism, gratitude, and unity. He felt that openly criticizing the show disrespected the cast, crew, and audience. Blocker once remarked that Roberts believed himself smarter than everyone else and sometimes refused to rehearse material he deemed beneath him. The tension created a difficult working environment. Blocker didn't hate Roberts, but he deeply resented what he saw as arrogance and ingratitude. For him, loyalty mattered more than intellectual pride. Respect without reconciliation. When Pernell Roberts left Bonanza in 1965, Blocker felt a complicated mix of emotions. There was sadness that a colleague and friend had walked away, but also relief that the constant philosophical conflict had ended. Blocker never wished Roberts harm. He simply believed that bitterness had overshadowed his talent. In later years, Blocker acknowledged Roberts' intelligence and skill with weary respect, though the rift was never fully healed. This conflict revealed something essential about Blocker's character. He didn't demand and respect. He believed you didn't have to love everyone you worked with, but you owed them decency and professionalism. It was a belief forged in war, education, and family life, and it guided him until his final days. A sudden and devastating goodbye. On May 13, 1972, Dan Blocker's life ended suddenly at just 43 years old. He died from a pulmonary embolism following routine gallbladder surgery. The shock was seismic. His family was devastated. His castmates were shattered. Millions of fans mourned the loss of a man who felt like family. Bonanza would never recover. Michael Landon and Lorne Greene grieved not just a colleague, but a dear friend whose presence had held the cast together. The void left by Blocker's absence was emotional, moral, and irreplaceable. His death marked the beginning of the end for the series, and for an era of television defined by warmth and sincerity. Outro, the measure of a man. Dan Blocker's legacy is not defined by conflict or fame, but by character. He was a man who believed strength meant kindness, leadership meant service, and success meant staying true to yourself. He lived by values forged long before Hollywood ever noticed him, and he carried those values until his final breath. In an industry often driven by ego, Dan Blocker stood as proof that decency endures. His life reminds us that respect matters, gratitude matters, and integrity outlives applause. Though he left this world far too soon, the humanity he brought to it